So, the VOLTAIC benchmarks. If you're into Aimtraining, you've probably heard this term once or twice. If you haven't, then why are you watching this video? Even though everyone pretty much gets the basics of the VOLTAIC benchmarks and ranks, there's still a lot of confusion on how to actually use them, and how to practice in order to get better at them. How often should I use them? Should I grind them? How do I get better at a specific benchmark? Should I only aim train with the fundamental playlist, or should I use other playlists as well? And so on and so on. The truth is, there isn't a definitive answer to these questions, and it mostly comes down to opinion and what you are trying to achieve with aim training. If you're just trying to get that sweet street cred and flex with a high VOLTAIC rank, you would probably approach the benchmarks in a different manner as someone trying to improve their overall aim, or someone just trying to improve in a specific game. While all of these goals are perfectly fine and valid, this video is intended for people that are trying to get better aim in FPS games in general, and use the benchmarks either as a way to check on their progress or as an additional motivation to push them further in their aim training journey. Through Reddit polls and just watching what people in the aim training community do, I found that most people that fall in this category usually use the benchmarks either once a week or once a month, with the majority choosing the former. And they aim train through the week, usually doing the fundamental playlist from VOLTAIC or with a combination of different playlists they've gathered from popular creators or people that compile them, such as PureG, Read By The Way, WestProder, Forbanger Kovaaks, and many more. While the fundamental playlists are good general playlists to play since they cover most aiming techniques, I find that after a beginner level they do not provide the amount of repetition and challenge required to push you towards fast and efficient improvement. And since they try to condense every aiming category in a playlist that lasts roughly an hour, they inevitably suffer from a lack of scenario variety and repetition times that become essential to your progress later in your aim journey. Now, with this, I am not saying that you should never play these routines, but on their own they are probably not enough, or at least not the most efficient path to improve your aim. On the opposite end of the spectrum, playlists made by other creators could potentially be too specific or harder than what you need right now in relation to your current skill level. And even though there are amazing playlists and scenarios made by great creators and aimers out there, it could be hard to find the best playlist for you if you don't know where to look or even what you're looking for. And you could end up giving too much of your time and attention to skills that are secondary or even harming you because you lack the fundamentals necessary to know what you're trying to improve at, ultimately creating bad habits that would be hard to get rid of later on. So, what I propose is the following. As you know, VOLTAIC divides aiming as a general skill into three main categories: clicking, tracking, and target switching. And these are separated into two subcategories each: dynamic clicking, static clicking, smooth or precise tracking, reactive tracking, speed TS, and evasive TS. And also, with Season 4, for the intermediate and advanced benchmarks, VOLTAIC added movement scenarios as well. With the introduction of this new season, I decided to find an alternative way to go about my aim training instead of doing the classic fundamental playlist plus a more specific playlist combo I was doing last season. After some time thinking about it, I decided I wanted to create playlists that work both as a way to improve my overall aim, but also as a way to get just enough extra practice to be ready to beat my high scores on the benchmark scenarios. Because let's face it, meeting PBs is a really great feeling and a great motivation to keep aim training. In time, and with the great help of VD Mario Overwatch, who provided amazing feedback on all of these playlists, my friend TenguTerror, who I basically used as a test subject for the last couple of weeks, the approval of Silky Chris, who's a great inspiration of mine, and the initial feedback I got when I started working on this playlist by Read By The Way and WestProder, I managed to create 7 playlists that I am really proud of. One for each aiming technique, and correlating to a day of the week designed to properly and fully train each technique in relation to your VOLTAIC rank. This playlist, whose Kovaaks share codes are in the description by the way, are divided into Novice and Intermediate, and as said before, are titled after an aiming technique and a day of the week. So, for example, if you're Platinum, you would download the Intermediate playlist. By the way, to do this, you must go search the code in the description and copy it, then in Kovaaks head to Online Playlist, and at the bottom you must paste it and press enter. And every Monday you will play the Dynamic Clicking playlist. In these playlists, you will find different bot types and scenarios to help you on your overall dynamic clicking technique, but also harder versions of the dynamic clicking intermediate benchmarks and the benchmarks themselves. So technically, every time you fully run each one of these playlists, you will also be benchmarking that specific technique. In this example, BD Pass Rasp Intermediate, and BD Bounce Shot Intermediate, and the same goes for every other aiming technique and benchmark scenario. I think this way to go about benchmarking has many benefits over the established practice of benchmarking once a week. The main reasons you would want to do this, in no special order, are the following. Reason number 1 is that you're not missing training days. There are 16 benchmark scenarios, all lasting at least a minute. If you were to run all of them at least 5 times each, this could be a total of 80 minutes. 80 minutes is quite a lot of time, and this is even without considering the time you probably waste by resetting runs of the benchmarks, or all the time you spend getting stuck running one benchmark 20 times in a row. From what I've seen from posts in the aiming community, most people have a maximum of 1 hour a day to aim train, some even less. So, this essentially means that benchmark day, usually Sunday, is a lost day for aim training, since you're playing all of the benchmarks and trying to get high scores and not actually focusing on improvement. With the playlist I made, you're actually aim training every day, including Sundays, for around 45 to 50 minutes, and only spending 10 minutes a day for benchmarking. Reason number 2 is that you're benchmarking at your full potential. Let's continue with the example of the 80 minutes I calculated on the last point. Assuming you follow the order of the benchmark spreadsheet and started benchmarking with BD Pass Rasp Intermediate, there is no way that after going all out on the benchmarks trying to beat your high scores, you can perform optimally by the time you get to BD Bounce TS Intermediate. You're basically handicapping yourself by making you really tired, and by the time you get to the last scenario you will perform worse than what you would have if you had started in the bottom of the spreadsheet. Basically, with my method, you're only doing 2 different benchmarks per day, and all of the other scenarios you play are meant for you to gradually improve your aim, without the need for you to grind them with the same intensity as if they were all benchmarks. Plus, since they are all part of the same aiming technique, you will likely be readier to face the benchmark scenarios and warmed up to try to beat your high scores, as opposed to doing all of the benchmarks on the same day, in which you're essentially jumping from technique to technique without having the time to adjust. Reason number 3 is that the benchmarks are comparatively easier than the harder versions of the scenarios. This is a well-known practice and one of the 2 main things I wanted to achieve by making these playlists. On every one of these playlists, I added a harder version of the benchmark scenario of the technique you're training. The point of this is that just before you have to play the benchmark, you play a more demanding version a couple times. This will have the effect of making it so that when it is time to run the actual benchmark scenario, it will feel way easier for you, helping you break plateaus and get high scores. Reason number 4 is that you can optimize your training session for the specific aiming technique. A very overlooked and often misunderstood aspect of Kovaaks is that you should try to optimize it as much as you can in order for you to train in the most effective way possible. There are a lot of posts of people trying to use their main game's FOV while training, despite it not being the most optimal way to run the specific scenario they are playing, or people searching for gun skins to mimic what they see in-game even though this results in having half of the screen covered, and many other examples. You have to remember that Kovaaks is a tool meant for you to train your aim, so you should try to avoid anything that limits your ability to do that. So, you may be wondering, how does my method help you do that? And the answer is simple. Visual themes and FOV. It's no secret that there are visual themes and FOV settings that work better for certain scenario types. The most common example is the classic grey background with black targets for static clicking, and FOVs higher than 103 for target switching scenarios. If you want to make Kovaaks as optimized as possible, you should be using the settings that work better for you and change them depending on the scenario type you're using. What my playlist offers in this regard is that before even starting to play them, you can set your preferred visual theme and FOV, and then don't worry about it for the rest of the day, since you're training the same aiming technique in mostly similar scenarios, instead of what you would have to do while playing the fundamental playlist or in the benchmark bay, in which you would have to go to your settings and change the visual theme and FOV every time you have to play a different scenario type. While this is doable, it's certainly annoying and easily forgettable. With my method, you are more likely to be using the most optimized setting for you in every aim training session. By the way, in the description of every playlist, I give my recommendation of the FOV and sensitivity you should be using. The 5th and final reason is that personally, they work for me. After using these playlists, I have to say that I've personally seen actual fast improvement. In Season 3, I picked a Diamond Complete with Jade scores only in the clicking benchmarks. Then, I took a break from aim training, and on my first run of the Season 4 benchmarks, I landed on Platinum and then decided to make this playlist. Now, after 2 weeks of using them, and at the moment of recording this video, I am currently at Jade and 3 scenarios away from being Jade Complete. I am very proud of how far I've come as an aimer, and I know that with this playlist I will get even further. Also, around 2 weeks ago, I gave this playlist to my friend TenguTerror, an up-and-coming streamer you should definitely check out. And this is what he had to say.
Hey, what's up? TenguTerror here. So, the playlist absolutely made. Before I started, I was mostly unranked and intermediate. I had gotten gold complete pretty simply, but when I was doing intermediate, I was having issues until Gravity said that he was making a playlist. So started working the playlist and just absolutely started crushing all my personal best. Started pushing platinum, even got my first diamond. So if you have any worries, this playlist is the best and does a great job. Gravity, you've done an amazing job and I support it 110%.
I think jumping from silver to almost platinum complete is actually a huge achievement, and I couldn't be happier for him. If you think anything I just said makes sense to you, I think you should go ahead and give this playlist a try. I worked on them with the intention to use them myself to improve, but also to give them to the aiming community as solid playlists to cover every aiming technique and a different way to go about using the VOLTAIC benchmarks. I hope that if you end up using them, you enjoy them and feel that you're getting better because of them. And I am personally committed to update them as time goes on if I find better scenarios or if the benchmarks change. By the way, if this happens, the playlist should automatically update for you or show a download arrow with an exclamation mark next to the playlist to indicate there is a new version available. A word of advice: even though these playlists are divided based on your VOLTAIC rank, they are not easy playlists. I made them with the intention for you to be challenged through the whole playthrough because I firmly believe that frustration is key for fast improvement when learning new skills, and using scenarios that feel too easy for you is really not optimal for improvement. So, if you feel that the scenarios are hard, that's okay, and if you get frustrated, that's okay too. The important part is that you understand that you're getting frustrated because you're trying to overcome the current limitations of your aiming ability, and you have to push through the whole playlist. So, the takeaway is that getting frustrated is okay, but quitting because of frustration isn't. When you go to the description of this video and search for the codes, you will notice that in every aiming category I added a video that says must watch on it, and others I recommend. Even though they are highly recommended, you don't have to watch them, but I urge you to at least watch the ones marked as must watch, because they will help you understand what it is that you're training in every technique and the correct way to approach the scenarios on each playlist. As mentioned before, it is important that you know what you are trying to improve at in order to avoid developing bad habits. Lastly, I want to thank Maddie, Tengu, Silky, Reed, and West once again for their feedback and inspiration in general to make this type of content. If you haven't already, go check out their channels. They all make great content, and if you like this video, I'm sure you'll enjoy what they do. If you found this video helpful, I would really appreciate it if you gave it a like, and subscribe to my channel. And of course, comment whatever you think about the video or the playlist down below. If you have any questions or something to say, I'll answer as soon as I can. This was Gravity 56, take care, and happy grinding, my friends.